All right, welcome to Culture Couch Live for the first time in 2023. Chris from the US and Carly and Jez. Welcome, crew. How are we all in 2023?
Hello, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. Good to see you got a red shirt from Santa for Christmas, Chris.
You've got the old Swanee. He's got the old Swanee top on.
Sunshine, Jez. Bring some color to your life.
It is fantastic, and it's a great way to kick the new year off, I reckon.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, look, we had a good discussion as we normally do before we come on, and we probably thought we want to be a bit sharper and tighter and maybe pick apart a few of the issues a bit more in 2023. So to everyone listening, get ready for a little bit of maybe a cranky Jez. I'm never cranky, am I? So a little cranky Jez. Chris, we're going to get to know, and the rest of the crew sort of thing. But I think you're right, Jez. You brought it up. I reckon we've sort of been a bit general, which has been terrific. I think everyone's enjoyed it. But let's really pick up in some topics in 2023 and let's really dissect them and have some really good conversations. And Carly, I think I want you to start with a stat, and I think it's something we danced around a bit last year, wasn't it? We sort of danced around, well, everyone did, to be perfectly frank. We danced around this hybrid workplace, and everyone was sort of, oh, well, should we, shouldn't we, et cetera, et cetera. But you've got some stats that are pretty glaring in terms of what happens in that hybrid workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a partner of Insights Discovery in Australia and New Zealand, which we started last year and we're really excited about. But they've done some really good research around collaboration. So what has the impact of the pandemic been on collaboration? And so the stats say that time spent collaborating has dropped from 43% before the pandemic down to 27% after the pandemic. So we just thought that was a really good thing to start and have a think about, because obviously we're all about driving high-performing teams. And to be high-performing, we know that there has to be a level of collaboration, because that's the way you become high-performing. So if collaboration has dropped from 43 to 27%, what impact does that have on culture? And, if we're going to have a hybrid workplace, which we know we will have some level ongoing, how do we bring that together to drive the collaboration so that we still get the performance at the end of the day?
And let's be really frank on what collaboration is. Effectively, it's teamwork. Yep. So let's really break it down, Jez. And you've heard me talk about this a lot in meetings. If you are following a sporting team, and your sporting team, let's call it the Sydney Swans, was training, the forwards were in Newcastle, the backs were in Wollongong, and the midfielders were in SCG, you'd rip up your membership card. So let's really dissect it. So what it's really saying is teamwork is dropped, and it's common sense, I guess. What else does that mean to you, Jez, though, when you hear that stat?
It means a whole range of things, Rizzy. I think you've got to go back and look, why aren't people coming into the office? Yeah, I think that's fundamental to it. And if you're the boss, so here's the first sharpness around 2023. If you're the boss, start to lead by example. Don't tell the people to come in and stay at home.
Yeah.
So if you say you've got to come into the office and then off you go and you turn up for half an hour and then you shoot out, then everyone's going to go, what's the point of me being here? So my first thing is lead by example. Make sure that if you are a senior leader in the company, an executive, you are doing as you ask others to do. Because if you don't, they see straight through you, and all of a sudden they'll go, what's the point? So that's the number one for me.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't all of a sudden you go, yeah, I'm going to come in, we want to collaborate more, and suddenly you're the only person in the office, Chris. It doesn't work like that. But I think the flip side of it is, it's not like we haven't had hybrid workers. Yeah. In my day, as you guys know, I was an outstanding sales representative for a lot of companies. So we've always had, Chris, hybrid people, but it's always been to the benefit of the company, hasn't it? It's never been what the particular individual wants to do. And that's probably another shift that I see, Chris, is all of a sudden it's not, is the hybrid workplace the best thing for the company, or is it the best thing for the individual? That's the conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think kind of piggybacking on what Jez is saying is that if we've created a situation where people don't want to come into work, then we really have to internalize that piece of it. But in all the conversations that we've been having here in my month and a half with PBD, so many of those conversations, the challenge that these companies are facing are we're siloed off.
Yeah.
And so now we've not only have we got silos in our silos, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really for an organization really to be thoughtful about, are we just having them to come back into work so we feel like we control them? I mean, I think a lot of people right now are probably a little bit, they've had their fill of being controlled in the sense of now that's the empowerment piece is more important now than ever. Right. And so if we're just dictating from on high that, no, you have to come into work, never mind, I won't be there. I'll be off taking delivery of my new $100,000 luxury automobile. But you all come in and do the work. I think that's a big challenge. And I think that's where leaders really have to step up now and really role model what that looks like, because without it, you're going to have massive turnover. And it'd be interesting to see what stats are looking like there, because if companies aren't addressing that, they're going to have a massive personnel issue to refill these vacancies.
But I think that's why that stat is so compelling, Carly, because it's a stat. It's not taking any emotional component or where I live or how much petrol is or inflation or anything like that. And I think that's why it's so important, because what it is saying is teamwork is down, collaboration is down. So that's the reality of the stat, isn't it? Now, I think what Jez and Chris are saying is absolutely right, but that's the reality. So we have to face that reality, don't we? And then how do we fix it?
Yeah, but it makes me think about how much more important the team review or the team tune-up is, Ruzi, because if we're all off in our silos doing our silo stuff, you just get your head down and you just do work, which, every single team we go into, the question you and Jez ask them is, are you a team or are you an individual working in your silos? And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges we see in terms of developing culture, that the shift in terms of the mental state to really think about the business and the executive team as the most important team. I mean, we've been encountering that for the whole time. That hasn't been a thing that's changed since the pandemic. But the pandemic's probably exacerbating that. So now, if we're not coming together every quarter and refocusing on us as a team, refocusing on our review, refocusing on what we want to achieve together, then there's a lot less chance that we're going to be unified in achieving what we want to achieve. So I think it just really highlights for me how much more important the team review is, Jez, because otherwise you're just all off doing your own thing.
The connective tissue of the organization is lost. So the problem with having individual conversations with different people at different times is that no one knows what that conversation was.
Yeah.
And so bringing, and this has been one of my reflection points over the summer, is I'll be really strong on the teams I'm working with to make sure that we bring the whole group together to have some really important conversations so that everybody understands it. Because as soon as one person isn't there, or 5 people aren't there, or 10 people aren't there, they then pick up secondhand murmurings, Chinese whispers, if you like, and as a result of that, it's never really quite clear. And that's why I just believe, as you said, Carly, the leader, the executive team, the departmental heads, you've got to get people together to have conversations so we all are hearing the same thing and we're all having input into the same topic, and it's not bit by bit. Because if Ruzi's my boss and he has a conversation with me, and then he has another conversation with Chris, and then he has another conversation with Carly, and then he makes a decision, Chris goes, well, hang on, why are you doing that? Because he doesn't really understand Carly's or my perspective.
We're seeing that a lot. That's a true example.
Seeing it so much, and that's a direct result of the hybrid workplace. So we have, as everyone knows, we don't believe in everyone has to be at work, 5 days a week, blah blah blah. That's not our perspective. We believe it'll be different for different companies, but don't continue to have individual conversations with people, because all that connective stuff that brings the organization together, that innovation you talk about, Rudy, that teamwork,
Yeah.
it just falls through the gaps because it can't not. And it frustrates the hell out of me because I don't understand why leaders don't see that.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that thing you were saying before, Chris, about we've got to have the real talk. Like just have the we go to business development meetings and it's just like so obvious. Like you just want to say, for Christ's sake, just talk about it. Just talk about it. Go to the person and talk about it. Bring the group in. I had a chat this morning with a very, very senior executive, and there's an issue in the company. And I said, has it been raised with the executive team? And she said, no, the CEO hasn't done that yet. So be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Like if you start that's a bit of a rant, isn't it? Really, sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree, Mert. But Chris, that reminds me of, I guess, a lot of the conversation we've had. Whilst you've spent a lot of time in the car industry, now, whilst that's not a hybrid environment, in a sense, a lot of dealers have 5, 6, 7, 8 dealerships. So communication, even in a workplace that's fundamentally at work, but they're all in silos. That's a conversation you've had a lot around the miscommunication from the hierarchy into the dealerships, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where being intentional about how your organization operates and how they walk their talk. These are our values. These are our behaviors. If you're not and I think that's where companies are really struggling with this, is they didn't have their house in order to begin with.
Yeah.
And so now it feels like, I could be wrong, but it feels like it's just this dictate that not everybody's got to come, and there's no other messaging that goes along to it that inspires that let's go. I can't wait to get back in the office and see all my friends that I work with, and to be able to, be inspired about the work we're doing. If you've got that environment, and I think a lot of business leaders are looking at it that the problem is them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that they're not having that honest conversation with themselves that, man, this may actually have a lot to do with us. Yeah. Like, and are we all on the same page? And I think that's the opportunity in this market, right? There's so many dynamics. Tech is laying off so many thousands of people right now. Real estate's going through massive turmoil, automotive and manufacturing. And so now's the time. Leaders, the opportunity exists to really stand out in this moment, to really staff up with really quality people, but really having that quality message of, this is who we are, this is how we go forward, and our team is inspired to be here. If they're not, shame on you.
And to create a really strong executive team and to use them, and then to get that executive team to create cross-functional collaboration. But you have to get people together at different points to communicate that consistent messaging, and you've got to lead by example. Like this ain't rocket science.
Yeah, no, it's not. But you get caught up, Jez, don't you? Unless you have people like us coming in and saying, "What's the system? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? What does it look like?" It's so easy to let it fall by the wayside.
And I think, again, Carl, that's why that stat is so powerful, because I think everyone's been sort of dancing around and everyone's going, oh, well, and we sort of know, yes, it makes a difference. It's just common sense. If people are less time together, they're going to be less communicating, Jez, and they're not going to get together and miscommunicate. So it's common sense, but it really hit me when you mentioned that stat. We now have unequivocal evidence. That's fine. If you want to have less collaboration, and I'll put it in even more simpler terms, if you want to be less of a team, have a full-on hybrid workplace. Now, to Jez's point, we're not saying it's 5 days a week or whatever, but we're saying have the conversation.
Yeah.
Because the teams that do, Chris, to your point, create a really good environment, have the conversation, look at themselves first and say, I, as a leader, I'm going to lead. There's opportunity. I love that word opportunity going into 2023, because if we all sit around and mope, I just think there's great opportunity in that culture space to sort out your culture, get your people back excited, vibrant, get them back into work. What that looks like is up to you, but have the conversation. So
before you go, can I just say one other thing? If you're a senior exec or a CEO, don't use the bullshit excuse, I haven't got time.
Yeah.
I am sick to death of hearing that. Like, Some of the busiest CEOs who lead the biggest organizations that we work for will get back to us within 2-3, absolute within 24 hours.
Yeah, great point.
And we go to these other companies where they're leading, 300, 400, 500, 1,000, 20, and they say, I haven't got time. That's bullshit. It is seriously bullshit. So start to work through, if I haven't got time, what am I doing that I shouldn't be doing to create time to do the things I should be doing?
100%. That happens everywhere.
Oh,
That was awesome. Yeah, thanks.
I might add on to that as well, because I think what's really been exciting in this transition for me, coming from automotive and coming into this, I wasn't really sure how automotive would embrace these conversations, right? And it's been really exciting to see that like dealer groups are actually being really proactive, that this is their opportunity. They see this as the opportunity for 2023 to really double down on that piece. And I think that's, I think it's all blue sky, but I think it's just a realization of what is our focus this year? What's most important for our organization? And if you're struggling to get people back in, it's probably a big red flag to you that's it's a place to look.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. And I said this before we got on. I think there's been a different mood in the business development meetings we've had this year so far, both in the US and in Australia. I think there's last year we think we need it. This year, I think they see opportunity. If we can get our culture right, there's definite opportunity. I agree. There's a different mood going into 2023. And I think there's a mood of excitement around culture and what we can do and the purpose and mission, values, and really setting up 2023. 100% agree with that.
I was going to say, I think the COVID's still here, but it's gone, sort of thing. Whereas last year it wasn't. So I think people are now looking at what are we going to do going forward, because that's our truth, and our truth also is it won't go back to what it was.
No.
So we have to, as leaders, and I know it's difficult sometimes, we have to find ways to engage our people, to make them feel happy, to make them feel like they belong, to give them a voice, in order that they will want to come to work.
Yeah. Definitely. No, well done, guys. Good start to 2023. I agree. I enjoyed that. I'm going to watch it back myself for the first time. I was that excited, Carly. Yeah.
First time. What you mean? We've done 7,562 episodes, and you haven't watched one?
Oh, mate, I've been on every one of them, so I don't have to watch it back again. I can't stand looking at myself in the video. Do you think I've watched my old tapes playing footy?
Yeah,
I think you do. Well, I know you do.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've watched them. No doubt. All right. No, well done. That was awesome. So thanks to everyone. We're really looking forward. As you can see, we're pretty pumped up for 2023. We really see it as a year of opportunity. It's a great opportunity for us, a great opportunity for our clients, a great opportunity for our new clients, hopefully, as well. So thanks, Jez. Thanks, Carly. And thanks, Chris. And we'll see you all next week on the Culture Couch Live.